Hello there everyone, my name is Nathan Birch. Today we're going to do our hands-on exercise 3 for lesson 2, programming with functions. So let me go ahead, let's go ahead and make a new file. So let's go through this real quick. We're going to write a bunch of functions today, understand the value of functions, and we're going to learn how to use the browser debugger. Following program is to be run in the browser. You will create an HTML file. Let's do that real quick. So I'll just call this hands-on3.html. And we're not going to have much in the HTML, so I'll just call this lesson 2, hands-on 3, and say, we'll make a header tag, house volume. Okay, and then we're going to open that up with live server. So I'll say open with live server, and here we are. Sweet. This is running in the browser. And a JS file referenced in the HTML file. So let me go ahead and make another file in here. I'll call this hands-on3.js. And then the only thing I have to do to reference that is to put a script tag in here with a source attribute that says hands-on3.js. Okay, and that should work. We can test that real quick if I wanted to and say alert 5. And as soon as we save that, it should show up. Yep. So we're successfully connected, no errors. That's good. All right, I'm going to take that out. Do not need it anymore. All right, code that will contain the following requirements. Get depth. That will prompt the user for the width of a house and return that value as a number. So I'm going to make a function called getDepth with parentheses. Okay. Function is created. The input function, the input function, what on earth? Here, one sec. All right, sorry about that. So here we go. So we have our prompt function to get a value from the user. So I'll just say, please enter the house depth. Okay, now if I run this, I need to actually call this function. So that on line 5 will call it. So I'm going to save this and come back over here and hit refresh. Please enter the house depth. I can say 555 and hit enter, and that worked. Okay, I need a semicolon there, and then I need to return this. Okay, now one thing that I wanted to show you guys real quick is how to debug. So I'm just going to assign this to a variable. I'll say let x equals prompt. I'll save that. And then in here, I'm going to hit cancel and I'll hit inspect. And I've shown you guys the developer tools before, but in sources, if I click on my JavaScript file, I can actually put a breakpoint in here. And if I refresh the page, that function just got called, and now this is kind of paused right here. Okay, and it says, please enter the house depth. If I hit this button, it'll go to the next step, and I'll say 56. Hit OK, and now I can look at what x is. Okay, now notice it is 56. I'll just hover over that, but it's in a string, and I need to return a number. I cannot do math with a string. So right here, I'm just going to say parse float. And what that'll do is it will convert my string to a number. Okay. All right. So that should be all that we need for our getDepth function. We need to get width, height, and sweep. And all these will pretty much be exactly the same as that one. So I'm just going to paste that there, and there, and there. And then for this one, we'll say, let's see, we have a width. Whoops. And then that needs to be width. And then this will be height. Oops. I want to do camel case here. And that'll be height. And then this last one will be sweep. Sweep. Okay. And then I'd want to call all of these to make sure that we get all of our values. Ooh, one thing I forgot to do. Instead of assigning this to a variable, we actually just want to return that. So I'm just going to hit Control D to select all of those, and I'll hit return. So all of these, I'm not assigning variables inside of these, but it'll just return whatever the user typed in, and we'll convert it to a number. And so if I said let house depth equals, then whatever number is returned from this function return will be assigned to that variable. Okay, and so I'm going to do that 4 times because this one will be house width, and this one will be house height, and this one will be house sweep. Okay, and we have those 4 variables there. All right, next thing, let's see here, house volume. So let's go ahead and make a function. I'll go ahead and put it up here, and we'll just call it house volume. And it said it will take 4 parameters. And so I'm just going to copy these from here, width, depth, height, and sweep. And I'll paste it. Okay. And so when we call that, I could just say house volume, and then I'll pass in these 4 variables that we just declared. So we'll pass in house depth, house width, house height, and house sweep. Okay, these can be called anything I want up here, but these have to match whatever was declared within this scope. Okay. All right, so we call a house volume, but it currently doesn't do anything. I'll just say return volume, even though volume doesn't exist. So if I ran this right now, we'd get a big old error saying that volume does not exist. So let's go ahead and compute the volume. It says it will call the living volume function. Okay, so in here, I'll just say living volume. Called, check. Next one, it will call the roof volume function. Check. It'll compute and return the volume of the house by adding those 2 together. So I could even just say, we'll put that right here, plus that. So as long as my living volume is returning a number and my roof volume is returning a number, then this should work out great for us. Okay, let's look at the next one. Living volume will take 3 parameters, width, depth, and height, and compute the volume of the living space and return it. Okay, so let's make that one. So function living volume, we have a width, depth, and height. And then in here, I'll just say return, width times depth times height. Nice rectangular prism there. All right. Roof volume, so function roof volume, and it takes 3 parameters, width, depth, and sweep. So I'll say width, depth, and sweep. Okay, so notice all these functions are doing something different, right? This will get the rectangular prism for our house. This will add that rectangular prism returned value and our roof value. So this will actually be a triangular prism. So roof volume will call the triangle area. So I'll say let triangle equals triangle area. Okay. And compute and return the volume of the roof. Okay, and then we have our depth. So it will return the triangle times depth to make that a 3-dimensional volume value. Okay, so that'll return the volume. Triangle area, though, let's look at triangle area. Takes 3 parameters, A, B, and C, the 3 sides of the triangle. So if I was looking at the 3 sides of the triangle, one of them would be width, one would be sweep, and one would be sweep. Okay, for our roof, for our 2 roof sides, and then the width of our house. So that's our triangle area that we're going to compute, and then multiply that by the depth. All right, last one, we have function triangle area. Okay, we already heard that it takes 3 parameters, the 3 sides of the triangle, A, B, and C. And then, according to Heron, the way you compute the area of the triangle given 3 sides is this. So we could assign this to a variable called area, or we could just say return. But we do have the square root of, and then a bunch of math. So the way that we do the square root is math dot square root, okay? And then whatever's in here is like whatever would be underneath that square root symbol, okay? So I'm actually going to click on this since my instructions aren't very good. Open that up because I don't know what P is. Let's see here. P. P is half of the perimeter. A plus B plus C divided by 2. Okay, so I need to get that first. So I'll say let P equals A plus B plus C divided by 2. Now, because of order of operations, this division would take place before any other addition. So I need to make sure this addition happens first. So I'll just put those into parentheses. So we have the perimeter divided by 2 is P. And then we're getting the square root of P times, parentheses, P minus A, times P minus B, times P minus C. Okay. In algebra, we don't need these asterisks. In JavaScript, we do. Okay. And so that should do that for triangle area. Okay, so let me close that up. Having created all these functions, write code to call each of the functions and then compute and display the volume of the house to the user. Okay, so we already called these, and then we called house volume. House volume we'll call living and roof volume, and then roof volume called triangle area. Okay, the last thing that we have to do, house volume is returning the volume of the house, and so maybe we just want to put this into an alert statement. It says the volume of the house is plus, and then whatever that returns. Okay, so let me close that. Okay, so all of our functions will get called. All right, let's come over here. I'm going to hit that button to resume our script execution, and I'm going to hit F5. Okay, there's all of our code. Notice it jumped right into here. Now I'm going to put a breakpoint into each one of these so that you guys can see how this code is running. Okay, so let's see here. All right, enter the house depth. I'll say the depth is 20 feet. Okay. Let's see. Go to the next one. Get width is going to get called. Okay. And then we're going to enter the house width. Let's say it's also 20 feet. Okay. And I'm actually going to make this nice and big here. All right. At least a little bit bigger. And open this up just so we can see this a little bit better. Okay, notice our house depth is 20, and we'll go to the next step. Our house width is now 20. Get height, let's go ahead and type in 35, really tall house. You can see that our house height is now declared, and then we're on line 39, and we'll hit our next step. You can see it jumps up into, whoops, that's a bug. Get depth, that should have been get sweep. Oh well. Well, let's say the house sweep is going to be, we'll make it really tall. Each side of it is going to be 21 feet. Okay, go to the next step. House depth again. That's interesting. Go to the next step. Okay, house sweep is 21. Sweet. All right, now we're going to call house volume. Now I can hover over these and look at the house depth, width, height, and sweep. So you can see we're going to have this nice little triangular prism with a rectangular prism underneath it. Let's go ahead and go to our next step here. It'll call living volume first and then roof volume. So you'll see the breakpoint jump into living volume. You can see it jumping all over the place. Width, depth, and height, these are undefined because I didn't pass anything in here. That's a bummer. Okay, so I'm going to take these breakpoints off. We know these functions are working well. We need to fix that get sweep function as well. So let me go ahead and grab this code. So that should be calling get sweep. And then let's see here. Living volume, we need to pass in width, depth, and height. And then our roof volume, we need width, depth, and sweep. Okay, that should help. All right, go ahead and collapse that. Look back over here. And I'm just going to hit resume script execution. Not a number, because we didn't give it good data. All right, house depth, we'll say 20. House width, we'll say 20. House height, we'll say 15. House sweep, 21. Okay, now we're passing the data through. This should work a little bit better for us. You can see now that we actually have these variables in here, it'll be able to compute that volume. Okay, and so I can look at what this whole thing returned, and it is 6,000 on the dot. Okay, now it's going to call roof volume, comes into roof volume. Now it's going to call triangle area. It'll jump down to line 31, do some math for us. And let's see, the triangle area was 184.67 or 66. And then it will multiply that by the depth of the house. Keep going. And so the roof volume returned 3,700 roughly, and it'll go ahead and add that to that 6,000. And so the volume of the house is, and we can highlight over this and see what it returned, almost 10,000. And then that'll just show up in a nice pop-up. Okay, there's the volume of the house. Now, obviously, there's a lot more that we could do with this. Even just rounding the number might make a really big difference in how this application looks. Obviously, having things on the page, we're going to learn about that in our next lesson. But looking at this, there's a lot of reasons why we want to use all of these different functions. By spacing things out, once these were working, I never had to look at them again. And also, if I ever needed to prompt the user for any one of these dimensions again, I could, without having to run all of my code. Triangle area, there could be a lot of different applications where I need to use or need to compute the area of a triangle. Well, now that I wrote this math out once, I never have to do it again because I have a function called triangle area. And so being able to split up our programs into functions allows us to have less bugs because our code is more organized and allows us to reuse lots of different pieces of this.